As it has been a very up and down week for WWE, it is an interesting news video today because a majority of the news video is, or a majority of the news, I should say, is about AEW, which honestly is something a bit new to me because I really don't remember there being a news video where the focus was completely on AEW and where WWE did not really have much. We do have some WWE news to report, but not much. And I honestly like this because of the fact that it's it allows a little bit of the switch, a little different, and makes the video a little unique. Because especially over the last week, we've had a tremendous amount of WWE news because of WrestleMania, and it is good to switch it up every now and again and give other companies the time of day, which is one of the reasons why I was going to do, certain videos that I said I was thinking about doing in the past, but never really branched out to do because a lot of it would be me doing videos on stuff that I don't really know about, and I don't really like not having at least a broad idea of what I'm going to say before the video starts. Or like having an opinion of sorts on certain subjects before we start the videos. So with that being said, let's get into it, as the major announcement from Tony Khan last night did actually turn out to be a major announcement in my opinion, but we will get to that later. We got other announcements to get to first, and that is, first, AEW is actually considering AEW is actually considering doing multi-day event shows like WWE did with WrestleMania, or had done in the past with a major pay-per-view event and NXT, or how New Japan did with Wrestle Kingdom. I think it's like the guys at Cultaholic said, that pretty much AEW has the opportunity to do that, and an easy opportunity to do that, with, as that is said, because Tony has control of Ring of Honor and AEW. So that would allow him to easily make a weekend of wrestling because he owns two companies. Because he owns two companies, so he could do Ring of Honor one day and then AEW the next, and, make, sort of like WWE does with NXT, or sort of like WWE did with NXT and WrestleMania. NXT on one night, WrestleMania on the other, even though WrestleMania was a 2-night event, still, WrestleMania and NXT were on separate nights, technically, even though one night had one day of WrestleMania and the other night had the other day of WrestleMania. Still, WrestleMania and NXT were on different nights. For the point, he did not announce any, specific day or specific night or anything of that nature as far as a Ring of Honor AEW super event. What he said was, in the future, it is a possibility, not announcing anything specific at this point. But that would be interesting, and another, as he said, with all the recent debuts and continued debuts for AEW in different markets, it is something that they will consider in the future, with him talking to ESPN about the possibility. Now we shift over to Dynamite last night, as we're going to talk a bit here and there about Dynamite last night. So if you are against spoilers or have not seen Dynamite, then I suggest just, well, either jumping ahead to a different part of the video or turning off the volume and turning back on the volume in a minute. But it is a minor spoiler here that, well, actually, I don't know that it actually is a spoiler because I don't think anybody expected Hook to lose. Even though it is much like, my opinion with Jade Cargill, and I have said this, that Jade Cargill can't be undefeated forever. She has to eventually lose. And, the fact of the matter is, if the company is going to take a year and a day to have her lose, then that's sort of fear of not having anything for her to do outside of the undefeated streak. Hook could be in the same category because you might fear not having him have anything to do after the undefeated streak. Because what is Hook outside of his undefeated streak? What is Hook outside of his undefeated streak? He's got to develop something outside of his undefeated streak, otherwise he will never be anything outside other than a guy who's undefeated. And I'm not saying he should have lost to Ethan Page last night. I'm saying that eventually he can't just keep winning because there's got to be more to who he is than just undefeated. And that's the same thing how I feel, like I said, about Jade Cargill, that she can't just keep winning. She's got to do more than just be undefeated. That's how I genuinely feel, that you can't just keep people undefeated for, years at this point, which I think Jade Cargill has been undefeated for at least a year, maybe more than that. And I believe Hook is in the same category. But that's where, the thing is, you gotta give them something more. Because they can't just keep being undefeated. You gotta give them something more. But the interesting part of it is that Matt Hardy is actually the reason why Ethan Page lost, as Ethan Page was struck with the world title, or the FTW title, by Matt Hardy. The interesting part is that Matt Hardy has been under contract, or his contract had been owned by, Stokely Hathaway and the Firm. So the fact that Ethan Page was cost the title by Matt Hardy turning and officially attacking Ethan Page, that, well, number one, causes the feud to take adds another layer to the feud, and number two, could lead to Matt Hardy, indirectly in the feud, fighting for his life in AEW, because if his contract is owned by the Firm and he screwed the leader of the Firm, or the top guy of the Firm, that really doesn't that doesn't really do good for him. And honestly, in my opinion, it's like I said, I have never been more interested in Matt Hardy in AEW than I am based on his shit with the Firm. Or through his stuff with the Firm. Like, he has been more interesting in AEW because of his stuff with Ethan Page and Stokely Hathaway than he had ever been since he started with the company, in my opinion. Outside of maybe with his, when Jeff was here, but from the start to now, he is more interesting than he was when he first started. Because there's a direction, there's a reason, there's a lot of meat on the bone, I guess is the best way to put it. And that's a lot more than you could say for past occurrences with the former Big Money Matt. Speaking of AEW, though, Rampage and Battle of the Belts are set to take place back-to-back this Friday night, and that means we will have 2 previews this Friday night with both Rampage and Battle of the Belts taking place. It's an interesting Battle of the Belts card. I think they probably could have put more meat on the bone and made it a bit more interesting, but we'll save that for a preview because I kind of think Rampage is a little bit better. But either way, I will see you in the next news video.